I'm a retired Army Green Beret. I spent 20 years in Army Special Operations, 3 years with the 75th Ranger Regiment, and then 17 years as a Green Beret. I retired in 2012 when I opened my own business, opened a limousine company in Tampa that we ran for 5 years. After closing that down after a family tragedy, I ran for U.S. Congress in Florida's 14th district against Kathy Castor during the 2020 election. And then after that unsuccessful bid, I basically just started, digging into research and tracking everything that's going on in our world. And after November 3rd, and we all know what happened with the election, I decided to reach out to the Oath Keepers organization and offer them some assistance in what I felt was going to be troubled days ahead, and just to kind of bring them up to speed on some things maybe they may not be thinking about. And one of those things was that they were going to be targeted in the future. Wasn't expecting it to be as soon as January, but it was. So pretty much after I started involvement with them, I was approached by the FBI, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, actually two agents from the Department of Homeland Security working with the FBI's Joint Terrorism Task Force, and they attempted to recruit me to be a confidential informant to infiltrate the Oath Keepers, which I declined, but I did record the interview. So I took that interview, I kind of kept it to myself. The president announced his rally on January 6th. I offered my assistance to the keepers as they were tasked with volunteer security for some of the event organizers for the rally. And, we went to January 6th. We performed our duty as a private security detail for, actually, our protectee was a female mother of one of the speakers that was scheduled to speak, and we escorted her from the rally at the Ellipse to the Capitol. At that point, some of the members of my detail broke off, and in my opinion, just got caught up in the moment and ended up inside the Capitol. However, myself and the female escort did not. We stayed outside and basically just observed and offered assistance when needed. And after that day, came back home and really the bombardment of the false narrative from the government and the media, and really it was Christopher Wray's testimony on the House floor that made me realize that I needed to come forward with the recording that I had. So back in March, I went public with the recording with Brandon Gray from JustAnotherChannel.com, and we went through the recording of that meeting step by step. I broke it down, explained everything from a special operations perspective, and then that story kind of got picked up. I did probably about 40 hours worth of interviews about the topic, and I told everybody in those interviews the FBI is either going to ignore me into oblivion or they're going to try to shut me up. So for about the first 3 or 4 months after that, they ignored me. And then when Darren Beatty's article came out in June, middle of June, I think it was, it really brought new light and new information to the entire story. And then my interview kind of got picked up again with a lot of help from Jim Hall from the Gateway Pundit. And it was really then that I think the FBI switched their strategy from ignore to shut up. And so some of my friends started to be contacted by the FBI. Some were interviewed. I had family members that were contacted. And then, just a matter of time before I knew that they were going to be coming in. On September 30th, I received a phone call that morning. They were inquiring about the fact that we were selling our house. Just wanted to know what was going on. And that day, I told a couple of my friends, I said, they're probably going to be coming today. So, and sure enough, about 4:30 in the afternoon, they showed up with anywhere between 30 and 40 agents. About 15 vehicles, my girlfriend estimated, and they arrested me right in my front yard, where you would expect a hardened terrorist on the run to be, right in their front yard. So since that day, I've been locked up without my Eighth Amendment right to a bond hearing. I mean, I've had a bond hearing, but they've denied bond in violation of my Eighth Amendment, and I've been held for 43 days, and This past Monday, I've decided to initiate a hunger strike until they give me my constitutionally mandated bond. So we're on day 3 of that, and with it being Veterans Day, I don't expect they're going to give me a bond anytime soon.
What charges do they have against you?
So currently I have 7 charges. The initial arrest was based on 2 counts of being in a restricted area, knowingly with the intent to disrupt government proceedings. But of course, with that misdemeanor came a search warrant, oddly enough, 9 months after the fact. And that search warrant, uh, they went in, they spent about 5 hours searching our property, which is about 3 times longer than they spent clearing the U.S. Capitol before they resumed business. But that's a whole other story. But from that, they got 5 other weapons charges.
What were the weapons charges?
So they're claiming that I have unauthorized and unregistered firearms, and then of course they mysteriously found 2 explosive devices, of which the details of those will definitely be coming out in the trial because I'm not familiar with where those came from. I am familiar with the type of devices because they're military grade fragmentation grenades, but there's a lot of oddities associated with them, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay. So you never did enter the Capitol itself, did you?
No, that is correct. I never entered the Capitol. I stayed with our protectee until they basically broke off, and from that point on, we kind of just stayed and observed it. And most of our time was spent on the nonviolent side of the Capitol, which I've described numerous times as really having more of a county fair midway type of feel. Law enforcement meandering around, citizens meandering around, people gathered on the steps, singing, chanting, praying. Really wasn't nothing like what the videos showed. It wasn't until later in the afternoon I had my first contact with the guys that were originally with my detail, and they said, "Hey, that there may be people on." It was very hard to hear them. What I had discerned from the conversation was that there could be injuries on the other side. So we moved over to that side, and that's where we came into the riot line, which they had formed, and we're basically sweeping everybody off of that one porch.
Okay. When you crossed over the barricades, were the barricades being preventing anyone from going across them? Was there a police line that you had to push through?
Well, that's the funny thing about how the Oath Keepers apparently were the masterminds of this attack, but things were well underway before we ever even got there. I never encountered any barricades. In fact, the only restrictive device that I even saw was plastic netting and keep off the grass signs. We crossed no barricades. Any barricades that they did have in place certainly were not in place by the time we got there. And so, that's one of the reasons why we'll be requesting a lot of the security footage from the Capitol grounds, because that should clearly show the disposition and location of any type of barricades that the government claims were in place. But like I said, I never encountered any barricades. I never crossed any barricades. It was never the intent of us, because again, we were escorting actually the mother of one of the speakers to what they believed to be a permitted speaking event. We were told there were stages set up at the Capitol. Of course, when we arrived, those stages were not there, which I believe was all part of kind of the ruse to make everybody think there was going to be an event there, and then of course never build the stages. So hopefully all that will come out as we move forward with trial.
Well, and we have all seen the videos of the police officers actually flagging people through what were barricades at one point and letting people in, and even right on into the Capitol. So at that point, you're being invited in.
Exactly, and I think that as more and more civilian and participant video that was taken that day. I mean, look, we live in a culture where everybody records everything all the time, and there were at least hundreds of thousands of people on the Capitol grounds and the roads leading into and out of the Capitol grounds, and everyone had their phone out. Everyone was taking in the moment because honestly, it really was a historic event. I mean, I've never seen anything like it in my life, and I was actually for the first time in a long time, I was kind of proud of the American people for finally standing up for themselves. So I think as time goes on, more and more of that video, like you discussed, either the video taken by just uh, you know attendees and bystanders, as well as I know in the recent case of the one Proud Boy, um, the the court ordered the release of some of the internal closed circuit security, and you can clearly see the law enforcement officers standing on both sides as the crowd files in, nice and orderly. Um, and so, as more and more comes out, as more and more time passes, and people like myself and others that are speaking out about January 6th are waking people up to what's really going on. I think we're going to see a shift in the the overall narrative. I mean, I think the government obviously has jumped the shark. I think that they had the narrative drawn up, and that's why they were able to repeat it over and over and over again until the lie becomes the truth. But unfortunately for them, everybody has video of it, and so you can't dispute a law enforcement officer standing at a barricade telling everybody, "Come on, come on." I mean, the truth is going to come out, and we know that the truth always comes out. Uh, the old saying, "A lie gets all the way around the world before the truth gets its pants on." Well, I think the truth is probably about ready to get its second pant leg on and buckle the belt. And I'm just glad to be a part of the fight. I'm not glad to be locked up in jail, but I believe that I'm in this position for a reason. I'm specially selected and well trained in order to endure whatever the federal government is willing to throw at me. Because one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to plead to a crime that I did not commit, and I'm not going to be intimidated by them stacking charges and making up charges and the typical tactics that they're doing. And I understand why some of the guys that have been held for months and months on end in really horrible conditions, much worse than the conditions I'm in. I mean, I'm locked in maximum security. However, it's really like a really poorly run old folks home for young people, and a really, really crappy activities director. But I understand why these guys are pleading to lesser charges because they're in a situation that they've never been in. They're being threatened with a lot of time in prison, and of course, when the government threatens you with a lot of time in prison, or offers, in the other hand, your opportunity to get out with just a few months, most people are going to take that. So I don't fault them for doing it. I wish they could hold on a little bit longer because I will definitely be forcing my case to trial, and as part of that trial, we will be bringing out a lot of information that the public needs to know.
Well, I want to thank you first. I want to thank you because it's Veterans Day, and I want to thank you for your service to this country when you served as a veteran. And now, further, even more so, I want to thank you for what you're doing, basically going to jail for standing up and doing what's right in this country. And how dare they? And whatever happened to speedy trial and the right to bond out, I don't know. But I do want to thank you, Jeremy, and I appreciate everything you're doing, and please continue to fight the good fight.
Well, thank you very much, sir. And normally when people thank me for my service, I say, well, thank you. But these days, what I say is, well, clearly I'm not done. So the bottom line is that I and every other service member out there, member of law enforcement, and even our elected officials, we all take the same oath to protect and defend the U.S. Constitution, not protect and defend the government, because the government is an inanimate body made up of multiple people and bureaucracies. Our oath is sworn before Almighty God to defend the Constitution, and that Constitution is what protects our liberties and our God-given rights. And just because I'm no longer in uniform doesn't mean that I no longer am beholden to that oath. And as long as
Exactly.
I'm breathing in and out, I will continue to stand for the rights that are guaranteed me by the U.S. Constitution. And everybody should know what those rights are, and they should do the same.
So what's next as far as when's the next hearing or whatever that you have, and do you have lawyers defending you now? And hopefully they're not just public defenders.
Well, I've told my fellow inmates here that a lot of God things are happening. So I do have a public defender. However, that public defender is actually a criminal trial lawyer from the Tampa Bay area who just happened to be volunteering time on the day that my case got up, and so he was in the on deck circle. And when I came up, he pulled me aside. We spoke briefly, and I kind of got the sense that he was going to do a good job. And so I do have a good legal team. He technically is a public defender. However, he's actually a well-known criminal defense attorney from Tampa. So that was certainly a blessing for me. But what's next is after the October 5th bond was denied, the judge did leave open the possibility of reopening the bond. So what he requested was additional evidence. We submitted that with a motion for another bond hearing, and the government had 14 days. Well, that 14 days was on Tuesday. And so on Tuesday, the judge received the government's response. And of course, their response is that I should not be entitled to another bond hearing. But right now, the judge has everything he needs. We're hoping that maybe tomorrow or Monday that he'll look over the motion, that he will schedule a reopening of the bond hearing, and that when he rehears the witnesses and evidence that we have, that he will grant me bond. Now, that does not change the fact that I should have never been denied bond in the first place, because I'm not being charged with a capital or infamous crime. So according to the Eighth Amendment, I am entitled to not have an excessive bond set on me. But we're hoping that the judge will reverse his original decision. We do have an appeal that is in, that currently stayed, because the district judge wants to see the outcome of the magistrate judge reopening of the bond hearing. So in the next couple of working days, either Friday or Monday, we're hoping to get some kind of clarity on when that hearing is going to be. And until then, I will continue to watch all the commercials on TV of delicious food, but I will not be enjoying any of it.
Well, I hope the bond hearing goes well, and I hope they give you a bond, and I hope you're released soon, and I hope that ultimately you're exonerated from all of this. And again, I appreciate you taking a stand as an American. And we can no longer stand by and let our government do these kinds of things. It's unconstitutional and unbelievable that this is happening. Do you want to say anything to family or friends or people listening to my channel?
Well, I just want to say, we've received a lot of support. The story is going out. I released a statement that was read and then backed up with some video from one of my friends, in fact, Brandon Gray, who did the original interview. So that video has really, I think, gotten a lot of traction. And the reality is that we just have to speak up as American citizens, and we have to break through this culture that has got us all addicted to our phones, and we think our friends are on some social media website, and we really need to get back out there in the real world, make human connections, reconnect with our neighbors, reconnect with our families in the third dimension, and tell people what's going on, because this world is one designed to deceive and distract, right? I mean, Satan is in control, and he wants everyone to feel isolated. He wants everyone to feel like they're in the minority. But if November 3rd showed us anything, is that we are definitely not the minority. Um, their fake votes are not actual people, but the votes of the people that voted for the pro-American agenda, the pro-human agenda, those are actual real people, and they're out there, and we have to get out there. We have to connect with them, and if they don't know what's going on, we have to be bold, and we have to tell them what's going on. So all those that have been supported up to this point, I say thank you very much. We've received tons of prayers and comments and words of encouragement. The Patriot Mail Project, I've gotten numerous letters from them, and I definitely will respond. My mailing address is on our Give Send Go, which you can get to by going to jeremybrown.defense.com. That address will be on there. If you want to write me a letter, ask me questions, I will get to them as soon as I can.
That's jeremybrown.defense.com.
Yes, jeremybrown.defense.com. And if you can spare money financially, if not for me, for any of the defendants, because there's hundreds of us, this will be a legal battle. I am intending on not only defending myself, but taking offense against the federal government. It's my hope that we're able to bring charges against not only the arresting agents, but the prosecutor and the DOJ for violations of U.S. Code Title 18, Section 242 for deprivation of rights under color of law. So we will be going on the offense, and that offensive attack will take financial resources in order to build a constitutional legal team. Or if you're a constitutional attorney out there and you want to assist, I assure you this will definitely be a high-profile case, because there have been numerous violations of the Constitution, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, and Eighth alone that I will be challenging. And because these violations have spread across hundreds of American citizens, we could be looking at a monumental legal battle going forward.
Absolutely. This administration is causing so many legal battles, along with the border and everything that's going along with that. We've got a work cut out for us to come back to bringing this country back to what it should be, what it's supposed to be.
I'm sorry, I'm having a little bit of trouble hearing you.
Let's say we have a big battle to bring this country back to what it's supposed to be.
Well, that's exactly right.
You have 1 minute remaining.
Ultimately, we have no one to blame but ourselves for getting lackadaisical, getting complacent, and getting lazy. But now is the time where we see the writing on the wall, and it's time. If nothing can motivate you, if this time doesn't motivate you to stand up and join with your neighbors and say, look, this isn't right, and we're going to fix it, well, then nothing will. You'll just sit back and you'll enjoy the world pass you by as you think everything's a reality show. But now is the time to stand up for your rights, because if you don't do it now, it's only going to get worse from here.
Well, Jeremy, they gave me the 1 minute warning here almost a minute ago, so we're going to lose you real quickly. I just want to say God bless you and thank you for coming on my show, The Barefoot Defender.
Well, thank you very much, sir, for giving me the opportunity. And, of course, thank you for your story as well. I am aware of it, and very, very impressive skills that you displayed in the protection of others.
Thank you for using Global Tellink.
This is Stephen Williford from The Barefoot Defender. You have just heard from Jeremy Brown, and in my opinion, he is one of our American heroes, a former Green Beret, serving his country, and even after serving his country, was going to defend innocence on January 6th at the Capitol, and afterwards was arrested and charged on bogus charges, and a search warrant was given for a misdemeanor where they searched his home, and they claimed to have found fragmenting grenades that he said he did not have. So, he's been being held with no bond and no way of getting out. And and that's against the constitutional rights. And again, this is the Barefoot Defender. Please subscribe to my channel and give me a thumbs up and hit the notification bell. This is the kind of things that this country is facing right now, and it's a major one, and it's we have to, as citizens, call our congressmen, call our representatives, let them know that this is unacceptable. It's unconstitutional. And I wish I had happier words to wrap this one up with, but for Jeremy Brown and the rest of the political prisoners, and there's no other way to describe them other than political prisoners. Uh, we need to come together, look at his website that was mentioned earlier, and help support him and some of the many others that were incarcerated after January 6th. For the Barefoot Defender, I want to thank you for watching and thank you for listening. Uh, Please subscribe for more videos of injustices and things that are going on within our state, within our country, and within our world. Stephen Williford, Barefoot Defender, signing off. Thank you for watching.